Hmm? Mm, 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 Oh. Oh. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Uh. Na 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 na. Am I missing something? Oh no, James kept talking for a minute. Okay. I hope this makes up for it. Cause shit. Yes, more audio cutting. A shit ton more, actually. Ugh. I had like a boo boo when we were recording yesterday, so I'm gonna have to do probably a little bit of extra attention paying. Why is this go? Oh, it's because I'm streaming right now. That's why. I'm like, why is this taking for long to convert the sample? Oh, and then boom, it finishes. Um, where is it? Intro, outro. No, uh-oh. See, I'm thinking of it in other terms. You go yang. Okay. And then... Oh. I feel like I could just mute this. Or not mute it. I can just... Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, God, I can do that. Okay. It's opposed to noise canceling. Yeah. Yeah. That line was dropped in there on purpose. Yeah. This could go even lower, I feel. Yeah. Yeah. That line was dropped in there on purpose. Yeah. I really loved it. But I also. Yeah, we're gonna reduce that a tunk. So that one's done. Let's get my second version here. Yeah. Oh, you know what? That didn't even fucking register to me. I saw that and oh, beautiful. I don't think James's has anything. Oh, maybe so. Hold on. There's a little background noise there.
So I don't remember the general's name, but her nickname was the Spider. So that's like their.
Oh, and then might as well. Oh, maybe we can squelch that.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings. Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that. Good ones, but go on.
Mmm. Do 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 do. Well, first we do this. We take you here. No. Because we're about to go into a saison. I need to prep for the dead seasons. Okay. That's their goodies.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that. Good ones, but go. I don't wanna to get too far ahead because I did want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier about sort of what is the show actually doing here? Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that. Good ones, but go on. Well, I don't wanna to get too far ahead because I did want to go back to something you.
I think this sounds less robotic.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that.
This isn't too bad.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that. Good ones, but go on. Well, I don't wanna to get too far ahead because I did want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier about sort of what is the show actually doing here? Because
I like this. Oh wow, I got mine like all these fucking lights on. Oops. Oh, I'll worry about that later. Alright, are we ready? Okay, welcome back to Anime Savants, everyone. And this week I am Boji.
oh, this week I am Lord Slug.
Oh, and yeah, we're swapping it. So we will be doing news. Okay. Okay, welcome back. Beautiful love. God damn it. Yeah, just delete them. Don't. Okay, come on. Actually, I actually did this on a previous episode. I need to hear those volume levels.
And I some
80 Super Cent of anime,
it's a lot better.
and then
Yeah.
Flying Lotus.
Time, you guys. So not like wild stuff.
So and on Twitter, keeping
Fandom for Super Robot Wars, which
Not so positive if that's the right one. The fuck is this? Huh? Dun 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 dun. Beautiful love. I don't think it's going to be like
you're basically telling someone like it's explored a lot more.
that made me sketch. We're swapping it, so we will be doing news later, and we are gonna. Well, everyone has volume settings, so and
what do you
I think this works.
I
Oh, and we're swapping it. So we will be doing news later, and we are gonna get straight to the recaps. So, what do you want to talk about first?
I think Paladin was the last thing that I watched, so it's probably the freshest thing in my mind. And I like that they wound up spending like probably 3 going on 4 episodes in this one small area of the story, because this week we got the sort of beginning of the climax where you know where Will is about to set off, and now we know the mystery of like this land of undead that they're in, and why the 3 characters
why it seems like no one is interacting with them.
Yeah, and it actually made sense, because I was wondering, you know, you could tell from the opening of the show that there's a wider cast of characters, and of course there's a bigger world, so I knew that they weren't going to be spending a whole lot of time on his early growth and all that other stuff, but I still actually appreciate that they took multiple episodes to just kind of flesh that out, because now as we sort of get the reveal that they're all going up against this echo of the god of the undead, it actually kind of feels earned and interesting, and the little cliffhanger at the end where Gus kind of intervenes and does the whole like I'll take him on myself guys kind of deal, I think it works, and you do kind of feel bad once you have the story laid out as to how they wound up trapped in these immortal bodies in this city of undead demons. And I did appreciate that they flipped the trope of the heroes kind of like being successful, because Will was like running ahead in the story like, oh, I got it all figured out, like, oh, you guys did this and this, like, nah bro, we lost. Like that was cool. So I appreciate that, and maybe next week we'll get like some really well produced action scenes, maybe just for Gus and fighting this echo, because they did lay the seeds to say that the sword that he was given by blood actually could kill the echo of a god. I'm like, that's an odd thing to bring up if you're not gonna you know, it's not gonna be part of the story.
That line was dropped in there on purpose.
So what did you feel about the episode?
I really loved it, but I also took into account that they were still leaving shit out when they were telling him things, because they didn't tell him specifically about the contract, because when the god came down, he said, okay, he was like, your attachment is gone, which I'm assuming is Gus. So he was like, give me your souls. But they didn't say anything about that. From the way that they told him, or from the way that they made it sound, it seemed as though what the fuck is this?
They had
this
TikTok
contract with him way before Gus even showed up. So did they make a second contract with the god once Gus showed up or something? Like, there has to be something else that went on because of Gus, because the god literally showed up on the day that he is supposed to, that he's considered an adult, and AKA he can be by himself.
I agree, and they knew this was coming.
They did.
So you're right that they left. They not only did they leave stuff out, but it also could be that the way some words are translated may mean more than what is obvious from just the wording. So, and because remember, we didn't really get a payoff to that. You know, the whole line where Gus was like, "Just lose and make it look convincing."
I was going to bring that up next. I was like, so what is the reasoning for him needing him to lose?
I don't know. It's not clear to me what that means, and he did lose anyway. I'm expecting
something next week. Yeah, he lost anyway, but then also he lost because he was fighting an undead. If he was fighting an actual human, then
except that motherfucker was like, "Oh, you did this even when you were alive." Like, try to do sword catching with your fucking rib cage.
Oh, and you know what? I said that shit while I was watching it. I was like, this is some bullshit, because this is like healer trauma. It's like niggas just run in and they expect the healers to just fucking handle the shit. And it's like, no, nigga, you need to at least be aware of your own fucking, like, you know, body.
That feels like some MMO player bullshit that I don't know anything about.
It is. I was like, this nigga is just like a horrible DPS. Like, the nigga just runs in, he's like, oh, my healer got me. He got me. And it's like, I only have so much mana. Like, stop. Like, just at least try to do the mechanics. Okay, anyways, yeah, that was an MMO healer rant.
That's fine.
I think that maybe like the next episode, Gus might go into details about like that conversation that he had, because it doesn't seem like Blood is very malicious.
No, I don't think
when
so.
it comes to Will. So I was like, so what was the reasoning for the law? Unless that has to do with the contract with the god.
Yeah.
Also, so like if Gus beats Blood, that means that he would be considered a man, and that means the contract would be over even faster.
Yeah, and again, I don't really fully. I expect now, having gone through this episode, that they will explain the rest of it. And again, from the intro and outro, it does seem that like not only does Will leave, but he's not like on the run or anything. So
no, it just seems like he's wandering.
Yeah, I expect this to get wrapped up. It may even be the case that the foreshadowing around that sword is such that maybe he saves the day, like he takes out the Echo, and maybe they're still forced to stay in that city or something. But I could also see it go the other way, because they did a whole emotional moment where he's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to see you again. Oh no, because he had that vision of the future. I'm like, I'm going to bring my friends back, it's going to be cool. They're like, bro.
Yeah, with the wife and kid.
They were like, bro. Yeah,
that
don't.
Out.
We already went last week with somebody getting overloaded with death flags. We don't need any more of that. Talk about the future.
Got more of them dead motherfuckers this week on this show.
Not wrong about that either. So yeah, I thought that the way they handled both sides of this episode, because the first part of it was was like goofy hijinks. Mm-hmm. He gets drunk. They try to peep on Mary for some fucking reason, which was also like a pure comedy. Like it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, I was like, okay, he's doing this. Okay.
Yeah,
I am very interested in that sword, and so what I wanted to know though, or what I'm curious about, is that the barrier that Gus weaved. How the hell did those like lesser demons get through that shit?
Yeah,
does that mean that like he's not keeping it up, and that like it's like efficacy is like, you know, getting lower and lower every year? Does he has a well no I feel like magic power isn't finite, because I feel like magic power isn't finite because it's just the words, right?
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I was questioning. I was like, how the fuck did Gus and the demons get in there? And I also thought it was kind of fucked up that I was like, oh wow, so this isn't a plot by the gods.
No.
That, like, Gus is a chosen baby. Like, no, nigga, you were gonna die.
And I'm not, and I think maybe that explains, or will be part of the explanation for why Gus came at him, like, to fucking murder him in that underground area, and then didn't want to talk about why. Because he may have known at that point that, like, this little game that we're playing, raising this kid who we all like. It's not like he, doesn't have feelings either. But, like, the end result of it is going to be the violation of this contract. And, all our souls are forfeit after that. And maybe he just had a moment where he was like, I'm not sure I can go through with whatever he's doing in this
Giving
episode.
My soul up. But, yeah, we need, which I'm absolutely positive the show is going to do. I feel like we're going to need some more details on exactly what the contract is. How did it change because of Gus? Maybe that's what happened. They had an original contract, and then when they decided to raise him, Homeboy was like, all right, we got to change some shit. Because the way that I took it was that the god wanted them to protect that seal, because he didn't want to deal with the Demon King's bullshit in the world too, because like they said, all the gods have their own machinations going on, and that nigga was fucking his shit up. So he was like, nah, we need to, like, good job sealing it. I will make you undead to watch over it forever. Good job sealing it. I will make you undead. Good job sealing it. I will make you undead to watch over it forever. But if he takes their souls, they can't watch over it forever.
Right, so. And then, they also spent a good chunk during the exposition on the backstory of how they all wound up there to talk about that Demon King, the King of Kings.
Demon King, Ultra,
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Ultra Instinct Demon King, where his ability was to create demons from his own flesh and blood, which is cool. I thought he
was an isekai person for a moment.
And you never really know, because that's one aspect of the show that is sort of on the back burner. Probably, again, I've only seen a little bit of it, but like Mushoku Tensei, where like it's not, the most important part is not the logistics of reincarnating in the other world. It's just the story that happens once they get there. But it's But it's also very possible because they did characterize this adversary. And one of the things that I noticed when I was starting to get into the backstory was, okay, we're doing some broader world building here, but there still doesn't really seem to be a direction for excuse me, hold on. God damn. Sorry about that. There doesn't seem to be a direction building here, but there still doesn't really seem to be a building here. For Will. There doesn't seem to be a direction for here. There doesn't seem to be a direction for Will yet to go other than to, grow up and leave.
What the hell am I going to do?
So now we have that. We have what could be a primary antagonist, assuming the vow that they took or violated here ends with that seal being undone in some way. Mm-hmm. So I could see that being an aspect. And the other way they could go is just pure exploration, because that's what it appears like in the opening.
Oh, he's only 203. Shit.
Yeah. A lot of directions that they could take this, and I appreciate that they put a lot of work into the world building and backstory before they got at it.
Yeah. We shall...
this area. This area.
We shall see. I mean, that was a pretty good first 3 episodes. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was solid. It was solid.
I'm very much so enjoying the show.
It says something that if, other series, and this, by the way, is a very good-looking series as well. Like, there's definitely money on the production. But they led mostly with story. And usually that's a sign that the writers are confident that the story and, like, the look and the feel of the show is going to carry interest. Whereas, like, other series would probably lean more into, like, let's give some big bombastic sort of intro, even if the rest of the series doesn't really live up to that, because you want to hook people immediately. But the story here and the
I bet his effect resistance is like crazy high
on their own, and then if there's some additional like cool stuff,
I knew it.
That happens then.
All right, well he's gonna have to strip first. Agreed. All right, what do you want to do? Oh fuck!
We could.
Agreed. All right. I don't know about this.
We could.
All right, we got revives.
Go ahead.
Oh my god, I was like, do you want to do 86? I feel like not much happened in 86.
Yeah,
we're doing damage though.
What did you feel about 86 this week?
I thought that it was a build-up episode primarily, and I
he's
dead.
Okay, good.
Shin to just call everybody stupid.
I mean, kind of, sort of did.
She might kill strays. Sort of. Don't kill strays, please. I want him to do it to their faces. The moment that they were in,
I think we can.
When she got them back, and they were in that meeting, and they were talking about
relax, little girl. Don't
shit like that. And he was just like, yeah, but and she's like,
she's
no,
gonna ult.
Like we do this all the time. Our things are fine. It's gonna be a chill battle. I was like, everyone's
okay. That went horribly, and I lost one of my best characters.
Not everybody, we know the deal. But there are going to be a lot of deaths.
We know the deal.
Yeah. Now, hopefully, that does not include our main cast. Anybody in our main cast. But knowing the show, I wouldn't put it past them.
I think we whittled that group down maybe enough. I don't know.
I'm also extremely excited that redhead guy from the previous episodes got fucked up. So
true. Yeah, they just off-screen wounded him.
Yeah, they off-screen wounded him. I was like, it would have been one thing if they had just randomly killed him or showed his dead body, but they like that nigga was fucked up and was like going home, and I was like, now look at you, just a liability. Look at that.
So I don't remember the general's name, but her nickname was the Spider. So that's like their commander.
Oh,
She had a really good set of lines
Don't get
and
stunned,
interactions
please.
in that,
Good job.
both in the big meeting with the rest of the top brass of the Confederacy military, as well as when they were beating up with the consolidated special ops team that Shanae and all the others are part of. So on so there were, I had two thoughts about that. It was strong enough that I actually took notes about it, because like, oh, okay, that sometimes when I watch 86, I feel like if it had been a different show, not that it would have been better, but that I probably would, that it has enough depth that it could have been a good show of a different sort. So for example, counter. I think it could have been a really good military sci-fi series, in the sense of,
well, he has invulnerability, so I'm not really worried.
One that's like, it's not so much about all the character drama, but it's really about like the prosecution of a war in a science fiction, post-apocalyptic kind of scenario. Like I think the show is competent enough, because I was thinking about, they're talking about order of battle and military organization and tactics and strategy and technology and all that other stuff, and it was strong. I mean, it added a lot to this episode where not a lot actually happened, to just give you a sense of just what the heck is going on. Because I'll say, please that kill her.
Oh my god!
About last week's episode, a lot of what we were discussing is sort of inference about what the state of the world is. And
you needed that heal. Oh shit, he might die.
From little bit snippets and like things
no, he won't die.
They haven't really sat back and given
we just had to kill this girl.
Like a big overview of like, okay, what is the real situation? What is the Legion up to? What are the plans of the good guys? What is their, what is the pathway going forward in a detailed way, so that we can understand where our characters fit in. The same way, like if you were watching a shonen battle series, where like you want to understand what are all the powers and abilities. I think the best example is if you ever watch or read One Piece, and the whole Straw Hat crew is like 8 or 9 people. They're all engaged in these like separate fights all over an environment. And sometimes when you read the manga or when you watch the show, they have to have these like pan out shots where they show you a little map of the area that they're in. They'll be like, okay, Luffy is here fighting this guy. This person is here fighting that, just to give you a sense of like just what's going on. Because I'm currently reading the Wano arc, and I'm not going to like spoil anything for folks who aren't caught up, but there's the main battle is this like happening on this multi-floor flying island, and sometimes it's very important to know where certain things are happening and who's involved, because you'll cut to a panel where like one guy's fighting a giant dinosaur, gets kicked through the floor, and then in another panel it's another fight, and then they crash through. But if you don't realize that like that's the lay of the land and what's going on, it could all just come off as very, very, very confusing. And so for the most part, 86 avoids that by having most of the conflicts kind of, you don't really see what's going on in a fight. They tend to give you little moments for like individuals in it, and if there's like a big emotional thing that has to happen, then they just focus on that. But they will often like cut out whole parts of a action scene. In fact, they've off-screened whole battles just to like get to the emotional climax where like Shanae has to kill someone, or a character that we like is gonna get overwhelmed and die. But it very rarely do you get just like, okay, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, they did more of that in this episode, and they did it very competently. So I kind of, part of me doesn't wish that it was a different show, but like, oh man, if this had been much more of a military-focused sci-fi action series, I think I would get a lot out of that, as much as I'm getting out of all of the character drama. So that was one thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed basically Spider Lady because of the female representation in the show.
Yeah.
Like it's got a real like strong like women who really don't put up with men's shit and have their own goals vibe going.
True.
And I'm not gonna say that like Elizabeth was the first, but I think that watching Elizabeth's journey into who she was over the first core, that was like part of it that made me enjoy it. But for her to come out of nowhere and say like, hey, I was on the front lines as a child also.
That was a great story.
So like I can relate to like where y'all are coming from. She was like, I'm not a fan of sending y'all out here, but y'all want to fucking go out here, so I'm about to, we're gonna do what we're gonna make it do. But also her confidence actually comes from somewhere, because she got to where she was by herself. It wasn't like, Commander is everything, and you get to listen to him, and then it's like, no, like this is my shit. I run this shit, and that's it. Like, yeah.
No, there was so much that. So this kind of goes back to something that we've also chatted about it for other series like Back Arrow, where you could theoretically create a one-dimensional character that just serves a particular role. And there's nothing wrong with one-dimensional characters, whether they're comedy characters, serious characters, adversaries, allies, whatever it is. You know, the number of dimensions does not necessarily make a character better, whatever the role is. However, when a story goes out of its way to add layers to a character, even if it's in very short order and it's only to serve one particular point, it helps a lot to get over weirder and wackier or less believable stuff. So in that one scene, because we really didn't know much about her, right? Because if you add up all the time we spent with, I'm going to call it whatever her name is, but what was the first thing we saw with her? It was in a meeting with Ernst, talking about, it was not a meeting, excuse me, it was in the transport where they were all discussing like, they wanted to get their hands on all this technology, and so she was very excited for that. Then you don't really see her again for a very long time. And the next time it's all about like, the invitation to come join this test battalion. But it's still, again, we don't know anything about her other than like she seems to have a kind of pleasant demeanor, but is also kind of no nonsense. In this episode, we actually got a lot of character development for her. We see her frankly at work and not getting shut down by men and standing up, and we can tell that she's intelligent, she's smart, she's very driven.
Man.
She has like a view of the tactics and
I don't think she's gonna survive this.
Plan. So that's cool. That's like important. Then you get the scene where they're talking about I cannot pronounce these new juggernaut.
Landy's gonna kill her alone.
Fuck,
that Landy is strong.
Is it Reagan Lee's,
Yeah.
whatever they are. They're having that discussion, and in that, it's kind of a gag. It starts with a gag because it's all about Shin not wanting to change the name in his own head of what they are, and then they're going back and forth over language, and then she kind of gives up. But in the process of that comedy, it also reveals a couple things, good things that you mentioned before, but also some blind spots that even she has as a person, right? Because, like, yes, she is against having these young children because it's easy to forget that they're all supposed to be under the age of 16. I think with maybe, like, one exception. I think, is Anju the oldest of them? Maybe she's 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah,
but,
I think so.
Yeah, but the rest of them are all they're 16 and under. And so she, repeats, I'm part of that group of people in this country that does not think that this is, morally acceptable to do.
I evened it
However,
out.
XYZ.
Oh, well.
But then she also kind of repeats
it's up to the rest of them.
overconfidence in their understanding of the war, which is the setup for whatever bad shit is going to go down in the next episode. And frankly, I'm surprised all of the 86 characters are so blasé about it. Like, they're kind of like resigned. They're like, oh, well, this place ain't perfect. These niggas are crazy too, or they don't see what's coming. I can only do so much.
Do you know what? That fucking enraged me while I was watching it when he was walking down the hallway where Homeboy was giving him a report, and then one guy almost tried to shoulder check him and
it was
looked
funny.
back at him.
Yeah, he looked like, nigga, what?
Oh my God. I was like, you niggas are so stupid. I was like, you probably wouldn't be alive if that nigga wasn't at the base right now.
And they mentioned that there's still some discrimination, which I think is a good thing to say, because it would be very tempting to cast the Confederacy as if it was like this perfect society compared to the other two societies that we know about so far in the story, both of which being autocratic, racist societies. It's also interesting that when we got more of Frederica's sort of backstory about all the time before the Legion were unleashed on everybody.
that shit was fucked.
It was totally fucked up. And I think, maybe you can speak to that part as well, but like the little nugget that I pulled out of it was they really cast the old Jihad kingdom or whatever it was before as a repressive autocratic monarchy, and that the revolution that happened is really funny because they take all these little elements from like the real world. It sounded like the Russian Revolution, and the way that was like the people rose up against the monarchy and we had nothing left and all that other shit. I was like, it's a good idea to humanize both sides of that country, because at the end you have to, if you don't empathize at all with Frederica, her character is a failure. Empathize. Empathize at all with Frederica, her character is a failure. Like, she kind of has to be empathetic, so they did a really good job again of adding layers to a lot of the supporting cast in this episode. But what were your thoughts about that backstory dump, which was both creepy and interesting?
I mean, I thought it was a really good setup for the new antagonist that's coming in.
Yeah, thank you for that.
That's what I thought it was. Because we don't know anything about him, but now, after all that shit, I think Frederica probably gonna die.
You think so?
Because the fact that nigga literally was so triggered by her supposed death that he sacrificed himself to the Legion because he knew what them niggas was gonna do, just specifically so he could get revenge.
Yeah.
On the rebellion. So what I think might end up fucking happening, and I mean, I could be wrong, but you know, I wouldn't put it past this show, is that they get to a point where, you know, they getting fucked up, and you know, one of them about to die, and Frederica has made it very clear that she does not want any of them to die. That Homeboy, Shin and them probably gonna be fighting Homeboy, and Homeboy gonna fuck them up somehow, or like get them in a crazy ass situation, and Frederica is gonna have to show herself, and the mind of that guy is basically gonna be like, oh, well, that means that I did all of this for nothing, so she has to be dead. So then he's gonna kill her, and then he's gonna have his reasoning back to basically be like, see, she's dead. So like, but like, I feel like because the brother was insane.
Yes.
When he was inside the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like I could see some fucked up shit like that happening, where he's just like, well, now she actually is dead, and I have a reasoning to be pissed, so I'm about to kill you. Like yes, I'm not gonna say that's gonna happen, but if it did, I literally would be like, this did not shock me in the least. Like, you niggas are cold. You niggas are cold.
Yeah, I'll keep it a buck, and I think that they're going to use her as maybe a vehicle for some other characters to die, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because that's sort of that was the explanation for the mascot system in the first place. Like, a lot of people are going to throw themselves in front of bullets for this girl, and it's gonna suck. So I mean, I think that's an important aspect of what's going down. But I don't know if all the death flags are necessarily on her. I don't know. I have no strong feelings about that one way or the other. It could possibly be that way. One of the things that I think is it is kind of a problem with the series is that it hasn't done a great job of establishing a lot of good antagonists to drive action. It's very good about the using the world building in order to create drama. So like that's a strength that other series oftentimes fail at. I would say it's actually a lot harder to do that part than to, you know, get a reasonably exciting antagonist. Because so far the closest we had was Shanae's brother, who was kind of introduced like 6 or 7 episodes in, and I felt that was a little late, given that so much of the story and the character motivation for Shin and most of the unit pretty much revolved around his revenge mission against his brother, and we didn't know or learn anything about that character until too late. And then as a Legion, it's not really a character. It's just sort of this mindless ghost of a person that we don't know very well. So okay,
Yeah.
fine. Then we're in like the second act, and once again, it's another. Frankly, it's also weird. It's from the same clan or the same family as Shin, so I'm like, okay, that's a little convenient, but fine. Frederica's
But
like,
also, they said that he wasn't directly related. He
Correct.
was adopted into the clan, so he doesn't have a blood power.
yeah, right. So when Frederica was like, oh, well, he's not really that closely related to you, whatever, I was like, okay, then why did that character need to be? What was from a writer's point of view, what is the point of that connection? Is it that to explain why Frederica is so comfortable around Shanae so quickly because he looks like his long distance relative? And they are blood related because she said he kind of looked like him but they just didn't have the same eye color. So I don't.
Oh God.
So I guess what I'm getting at is it's a little convenient that the next bad guy is another member of Shin's family, who also had like a crazy horrible death and was mentally entombed in the Legion, just like Shin's brother. Like we're getting to the point where we're repeating plot elements, and I don't mind if it's a repetition, but I want that repetition to matter to the story. And if it's like in that line where it's like, well, he's your kinsman, but he's also not related, I felt like they kind of deflated both ends of that. Like if he was related, now we got some intrigue. What the hell is going on with this Nozen family that they seem to wind up being in charge of big detachments of the Legion, and they're all coming out to kill specific people? But by not saying that and deliberately going away from it, it's like, well, then what was the point of the relation? Like, she could have just had that story about, you know, this guy who worked with her was related to Shin, who died, and then like the big mastermind of the Legion could just be something else more compelling or more interesting. So I wasn't a big fan of that part of the reveal, but I went along with it because that's where the story is going, and I still don't even really think that the Legion is the real antagonist here. I think it's still probably going to be their old country, whatever state it happens to be in when they finally get done with this
I also was interested that they said that some other countries are actually still existed and were holding out. Yep. So that was interesting too.
They did some, again, world building, good drama, setting up drama for next episode where we know mad people are about to get wiped off the face of the earth. I think that's good to great. And you know, the getting the band back together this episode, you kind of got to see a little bits and bobs of the old characters that we like. But you know, they were always supporting characters, so they don't gotta do much. They just gotta be there to be like, Shin. Fine.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I'm with all of that. But now we're sort of getting a finger pointed at what is the destination of this season, and it's clearly going to be fighting against this part of the Legion that's controlled by whatever this guy's name is. Brain.
Yeah, I don't even remember his fucking name.
It don't even matter. So it's cool. I'm if I had to like score the episode, I'd give it a B+.
Yeah.
But overall, I like where the season is going. It's just this happens to be a weakness, I think, of the writing.
Agreed.
Alright, we have Aristocrat Assassin.
Yeah.
This episode was very interesting.
Well, I just like all the the hints at the things to come in the future. I'm very much so interested in what he's planning to do with the Far Stones.
Yes, which as far as we can tell are like nuclear weapons. They're like nukes if he gets his hands on them.
Yeah, I'm assuming that he is going to like put a shit ton of his mana into like multiples and then just like give it to the hero and then basically be like, boom, nigga. Like maybe. I mean, first of all, we don't really know what his assassination technique is yet, because we haven't really seen him like stalk anyone or like try to like find anyone yet, because we're still in like the early aspects of it. But also, speaking on a few things, there were several lines in this episode that made me look sideways. Especially I promise you a wonderful first time.
Yeah.
And shit like that.
Well,
that's
you know that's the author. Come on.
Yeah, I was like, the author's having a lot of fucking fun with this shit, because their relationship is definitely like brother and sister.
Correct.
But oh man, and then the ending, I thought I was. Oh wow, the ending actually like gave me like redo of Healer flashbacks.
That's the point. The same they even used the same facial
yes, oh my god, the slobber.
Yeah, that was you could have just put that in the other series, it would have been fine.
Which, I mean, I'm not mad that it was in this one, because it's not like, you know, torturing for torturing's sake, like, you know, for like pleasure. But when he chopped homegirl's hand off, I was like, oh nigga, same author, of course. Like, Oh my God. And then her like immediate turn, and she said the dad told her that she convinced him and all that, and he just immediately just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I mean, he probably wasn't lying. If his son
love-
wasn't up to it, she probably would have lived. Like
Yeah.
he was. Because that nigga's a beast.
Yeah, he's a he's a tool, which that also was very interesting to me, where he had that moment where he was like contemplating the question his dad had asked him, and I was like, oh, so you still have to learn how to have emotions and like feel about things, like outside of just, you know, having emotions for his family and his mom and dad and shit like that. Like, you actually have to have like emotions towards, like, you know, what you are doing. You can't just be a tool again. Not that his dad knows that he was a tool, but I think he might have to have some coming to terms with that, where he can't just, like, you know, shut it off all the time. Like, he is going to have to like feel something for someone, because it's probably not, it's never going to be black and white. Like, it's always going to be some gray shit. Like, and I think that might hit him the hardest. But my favorite part of the episode was them literally figuring out the magic.
God.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that. Good ones, but go on.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, go. I mean, that was pretty much all my
Well,
stuff.
well I don't want to get too far ahead, because I did want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier about sort of what is the show actually doing here? Because it could just be another exercise in indulgent pornography, which is what Redo of Healer for the most part is. It's got a little bit more redeeming qualities than that, and not a lot more, but a little bit more. But this could easily be the same thing. You kind of have an overpowered main character, and no real actual connections to the world that he's in, because he's been isekai'd into it, so his life, you know, was the life he had before. And then, you know, you set up these situations where it becomes morally permissible to horribly murder people if he wants to. So you could the story doesn't necessarily have to be about much more than that. But what I enjoy about it is that there's two secondary questions that are brought up all the time, at least over the first few episodes. The first one has to do with this philosophical debate about that you mentioned, as to like what is the nature of being a person with exceptional skills, or is it fine to just be a tool? Or is there something beyond that, something bigger, some other higher purpose that you can serve as you live and grow, you know, in that environment? So that they've wrestled with that over 3 episodes. Lou himself, even his old life, when he's having that conversation with the goddess, is essentially mulling that over, and his initial decision is, I want to live for myself. So he kind of comes to not necessarily an answer, but a direction. So that's one element that doesn't have to be there if they didn't want to. And the second piece is his commitment to having what we would call like a normal or pleasant life that he missed out on in his old life. And so trying to figure out he doesn't know the answer to that, but like the way his parents, who are actually crazy people, so let's be very clear, these are psychopaths, psychopathic murderers. But the world that he kind of gets to live in with his father when he's not in like assassin mode, and his mother, who just, she clearly knows everything that's going on, doesn't give a fuck, but like she just wants to dote on her kid and doesn't really seem to care that he is the living equivalent of like a weapon of mass destruction. Like, she doesn't care about that shit. Like, his commitment to having like that side of his life be fulfilling is another philosophical quandary to be in. And again, that didn't have to be a part of the story at all. You know, the story could have been written where he's this master assassin, but he's just born into this idyllic aristocrat's lifestyle, and it's his desire to be an assassin and continue that, or being drawn into it by virtue of the goddess's promise that he made. That could be like a duality, but the idea that his parents are also aware and facilitating and teaching him and doing all these things, it's like, it's really cool. It's like, this is usually a criticism, and you'll hear this from like movie critics or like art critics. It's this idea of like putting a hat on a hat. Basically, if you're wearing a hat as an embellishment, that's cool, but what's the point of putting a second hat on top of the hat you have? It goes from being like a fashion statement to like something that looks ludicrous. And
Yeah.
and so like having him be a master assassin and then be born into an isekai fantasy world family of master assassins when he could have just started over could feel like a hat on a hat kind of situation, but it actually works out because it lets him with other adult, you know, in the room and with adult guidance walk through these philosophical questions in a way that actually is unique. Like, I haven't seen anything that's quite like this. I'm not saying it's high art or anything like that. It's definitely super self-indulgent and borderline pornography at some point, like murder porn or torture porn or whatever you want to call it. Like, it's just indulgent, but it's not pointless. So that I really enjoy that about watching this series, is that there does in fact seem to be a point to all the exposition and shit. But maybe you could talk a little bit more about the magic system that they worked out in this episode, because I think it's really interesting.
I mean, I don't even know if I fully fucking understand it. So it's more so about a set incantation, and then changing like one part of it to bring about a different result. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it really sounded like computer code.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was.
That's what
okay.
it like.
I'm not very familiar with coding, but like I've done like, you know, I've dabbled in those, like, you know, random like free.
Yeah, or just using Excel, or like, you know, the formulas in Excel. Like, it's a real formula-driven magic system. Where I like that line that Lou said to Dia when they were figuring it out. He's like, "Oh, it suddenly makes sense. You all have been conditioned to believe that the magic is derived from the gods, but it's actually derived from the formula." And then there's a rule that clearly seems to be that, like, unless you're given the formula, you can't execute any new magic because it'll just fail in the way that it failed for Dia. But because he had chosen that skill that allowed him to create new abilities, which is an ability I guess anyone could get.
If he gives them the new thing, then they can do it?
Yeah, and I thought that was a clever workaround that is overpowered and kind of silly, but at the same time it's not an ass pull. We learned all of these components of what would be the solution in the first episode.
With them.
Yeah, and it was also foreshadowed in the first episode. Like, you know, he had an ability.
The Spellweaver.
Yeah, right? So, again, this is just the little stuff where if you give the foreshadowing, even if it's a minor point, it makes the silly kind of contrived reveals later work out and actually feel earned. So I really like that they spent a lot of time in this episode poring over how do the abilities work. Because that will also probably come into play later when he is faced with other competition, and all of a sudden what he's doing makes sense. Like when he created the guns, or essentially the concept. I don't know if they had like firearms in that way, but using magic to recreate his original fighting style, which was very projectile oriented.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Cool.
I didn't know if guns were part of this world yet already, because she didn't freak out about it.
No.
So I don't know if like they're a regular thing or whatever. But then I also liked how they reeled the shit in and made it like real time, where she was like, yeah, I can't make a cannon because I don't have the same kind of magic power as you.
Right,
like,
right.
I can only do some shit like this. And then I think so for her to make new magic spells in the future, does she have to write it down and then send it to him, and then he has to send it back to her?
I think,
so that she can use it?
Yeah, I think she has to write it down, then he goes, tries the magic, and then writes down a copy of his own, and then send it back to her, and then she can use it indefinitely. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, because in the moment, I was like, now wait a fucking second. I was like, I think I understood that, but I didn't. Okay, but yeah. So that makes that just like interesting in and of itself, and I really loved how she was like, oh my god, like my love for magic is like renewed,
yeah,
and, you know, all this kind of shit like that. But it also gives me a strange inkling that like the hero is going to be so fucking ridiculously overpowered,
which is great. That's
like,
actually fantastic.
Like, yeah, I feel like, because I think that's what we're leading towards. I think we're leading towards like all this like ooh and ow and wow over him right now. And I think once the hero comes, like all that shit's probably gonna be like not even barely enough. Like it's gonna be the bare minimum just to maybe even like barely keep up with the hero. like not
Yeah,
killed.
yeah. No, but it's very important that they mention all the time whenever like the lead has a feat or he accomplishes something or just like completely overpowers some adversary, that they make the point that this isn't enough to take down the hero. Because
Yeah.
you know, going back to some of the challenges in other shows, establishing a end game and a definitive antagonist or antagonistic situation that has to be overcome is so important to just structuring the whole story so that the audience understands as the hero grows what they are growing towards. This is exactly why, you know, people complain that like One Piece is 1,000,000 chapters, episodes long. Oh my god, I can't get into it. But the thing about One Piece is, in the first minute of the first episode, it tells
We know
you
exactly where we're going.
exactly. It tells you the destination already. So you know that like anything that you're seeing, any kind of power scaling or events or feats or other things, like they are marching us and our hero forward through growth towards the goal that we already know is laid out. A lot of other series, because they are, I don't want to say like more poorly written, because there's a million ways to tell a story, but if you rely on the mystery of not really knowing sort of what the destination is, oh, it's the journey, it can sometimes be difficult to cast your heroes or your protagonist, if it's multiple people, their place in that story at any given time, because who knows, something could like step out of the shadows and, you know, be 10 times more powerful. This is a big problem in like battle shonen, is that, you know, you have an idea for a cool thing your main characters are doing, but you never really thought about what the end game for the antagonist is. So you just, there's never a feeling of like anyone knows what's going on, and it can really be off-putting or make things feel like they come out of nowhere. So I also
like
yeah.
Bleach.
Oh, 100% like Bleach. 100%.
Like Bleach.
It's it's a Dragon Ball problem too, as it got on as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, okay. I was about to say, because I was about to do a One Piece rant right.
It's
here,
the same.
I
No,
like,
I
nope.
mean, yeah.
I was like, really? Well, no, not in that vein, but also the One Piece rant about, like, you know, the journey, like people talking about, oh, it's the journey, it's not about the end game, but stuff like that. But like One Piece also has the journey down packed, because we've had several arcs reminding them niggas of how weak they are.
Yes.
Like, and yet it still made all the fucking sense, because it's like, well, yeah, they all literally just like randomly got together as a ragtag, and like we had that end goal, but the closer they get to the end goal, the like crazier shit gets, because the power scaling, like them niggas, they're niggas that have been on that journey since before the niggas were born.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, anyway.
No, you're 100% right. That's sort of the dark arts of storytelling, is that there has to be some measuring stick that you are constantly providing for the audience so they can understand where you are in the journey, right? It's not all about like what the characters are feeling, doing, or saying. It's also really about like, do I as a viewer or reader feel like there has been some great moment of catharsis where things have moved forward towards the goal. If you ever watch or read something and feel like, oh, it's just not going anywhere, that's where that feeling is coming from, because it's not being communicated well. So again, Aristocrat Assassin is not high art, and I'm not out here claiming that
but
it's
this
like
shit is so much fun.
yeah, and it's doing a lot of the basics well, which is, to me, most of the time, more important than like having some amazing height that you want to get to. Like that, if that opening action sequence that we got in episode 1 with the, you know, him as an adult taking down those the brothel slave auction thing, if that's about as good as, say, like the animation ever gets, or the you know, the construction of some of these action sequences ever goes to, the show will be fine. It'll be perfectly fine. You don't have to like.
But if we get the shit that we got with the opening,
I mean, that's different. I mean,
oh,
if you,
boy.
You get right.
Boy.
Which I think is cool. It has I don't love the theme. It's not bad at all. It's interesting and different once it gets past its little opening stanza. Like, it is actually an interesting song. But like the visuals and everything else are they what's the right way to say it? Like they imply a lot more depth than maybe the show is gonna get to. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, which I like.
I see what you mean with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think, for example, this is gonna be a what was that? Man, now I'm really forgetting. There was a series. It was like set in the 1920s, and it was like half assassin, half like detective.
Aka.
Well, Aka, well, that's another one. That I guess that probably like Aka is a great example of like they wanted. There's what the show appears to be about, the story, what the story really is, and then also what the show really is. Because the show is actually just a food tour across a fantasy, sci-fi, whatever, contemporary world. Because that's all that happens every episode. They go to a new place, they talk about all the food and all the other stuff that's there, and then there's like
the friend is in the background.
the friend is in the background,
shit.
and there's like 5 minutes out of the episode of like whatever the underground shit that's happening in that zone is, and then they leave and they move on to the next place. So like but I would just say it's just not. It's deliberately not exciting because it's trying to lull you into more of the vibe of the show and all the different places and the story breadcrumbs.
There's a show set in 1920.
Yeah,
Was it
it was within the last 5 years. I'll remember at a later date. But the point is that like that was there are series where what's important is all
not
the
Moriarty, right?
No. It's like where but what I'm saying is like this show could have been more about the cloak and dagger side of assassination, but this is much more indulgent. So it's going to be like big guns, big explosives, like magic, just killing horrible people, really more like a Kame ga Kill and Redo and like, you know, like that vein of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned the Triage X comparison last week, but I felt it even stronger this week because the way they killed that girl at the end was so Triage X, it hurt in a good way. Like it's the same shit. I love it. Was so Triage X, it hurt in a good way. Like it's the same shit. I love it. I'm a big fan. So it was a good episode. I was entertained, and then it ended, and I'm like, man, I want more. So that's really all you can really ask for.
Yeah, that's what I keep coming back to, is that by the end of the episode, I'm like, fuck, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Then then they're doing their job. Like, which that's okay, because I keep hearing all these shit about pays and people not getting paid.
Well, that's
and I'm like, bruh, come on, don't let this shit fucking collapse.
Are there any other scraps? Because I have a couple, and maybe we probably watched them as well. But
I have not caught up on Platinum End.
Oh, it's good. It's interesting.
Yeah, I somehow I haven't been spoiled, but I keep hearing that like it's getting better and better. So I'm like, okay, good. But I have like a good 2 days of like catch up time.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
And
it's not a lot
of shit.
It's taking it's meandering, which is good. It needs to do that to set some other things up. And so some cool shit happened at the end of this week's episode that I enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah. What else was there? Oh, so I watched the first 2 episodes of Old Summer Ranking, and I think that might be my favorite show of the year.
So talk to me about that show, because just the still images that I've seen of it, I have no idea what it is.
The show is about a world where different kingdoms exist. So, you know, like medieval-esque. It's based in medieval-esque shit. And they have this thing. They have a ranking of kings.
Okay.
They haven't gone into much detail about the ranking of the kings, but the story focuses on the first son of a kingdom. His name is Boji, and he is deaf. He's a deaf prince. Yeah, and when I tell you, like, at first, I was like, oh, a deaf prince. I was like, okay, that's interesting. But when they go, like, just seeing the way that he, like, interacts with stuff, and then I cried in both episodes.
Oh,
First and second episode. I cried because I can't spoil it, but there's some shit that happens. The first episode, you cry because you're like, oh, okay, humans are just shitty. But the second episode, it's like I had full on fucking waterworks, because there's also this like shadow like being named Kage, who is definitely going to be the second like protagonist, and they go into his background in the second episode, and I was like, oh my god, are you kidding me? And then what happens after they go into his background, and then what leads up to the climax of the second episode, I was like, bitch, can I and it's 24 episodes. I'm like, bitch, I don't know if I can do this. It is so good. Like, it's not even, first of all, it doesn't need Sakuga, because the source material itself, like the plot, the way that they handle, it's more so about like the way that the people around Boji interact and react to what he does and what he is capable of. And so like you have his dad, who's the current king, who is dying, clearly, like he's coughing up blood in his bed while he's talking to Boji. You've got his little brother, who's like a little shit, but also Boji has like stunted growth because apparently he was born under a cursed moon or some shit. So
I can't.
Well, that's the thing. No, it's not all like suffering.
Okay.
Like it's not all suffering.
I say this as someone who was just gloating about what great storytelling it was to chop off some lady's hand.
Yeah,
and watch her die.
Like,
so
I think
don't take me too seriously.
This storytelling is more so about emotional appeals and like how people treat disabled people, and also how disabled people overcome their disabilities.
That's really good.
So, but also you got the mix in with like, the fantasy elements and stuff. I haven't seen any magic yet, but it definitely exists. So it's very interesting because well, no, I don't want to say that. I just watch Usama ranking, y'all. It is so good. Like, and I can't even say that it gives me like Odd Taxi vibes, but I can say that like I 100% think that this will be like the sleeper hit of the next 2 seasons. Like I know by the end of it, people are gonna be like, this was fucking amazing.
Oh,
like,
that's good.
This is fucking phenomenal. Like both episodes have just been so good, and now I'm like scheduling my Thursday around being able to watch it as soon as it drops. So
yeah, you might be in trouble on the spoiler shit if it is.
So as soon as it drops, being able to watch it as soon as it drops.
Fascinating on one end. I hope they go into the backstory of like why there are these like all these abandoned seeming like human settlements or things that nobody knows about. It'll be good news. So I have a few other shows that I watched. I'll
One. Okay.
So I was talking about one of the interesting world building aspects of Sakugan, which are these abandoned areas. I was talking about. So I was talking about One of the interesting
Watch it as soon as it dropped.
world building aspects of Sakugan, which are these abandoned areas where clearly no humans are living and no one knows anything about them, and I want to know more. There's world building that I think that the story is capable of delivering on this stuff, and it's a genuinely like interesting plot, and it feels like a more wholesome, slightly more comedic Made in Abyss, just setting wise and the direction of some parts of the story, which I really like. So that's just a general update on that show. I really enjoy it week to week. It is something I look forward to, even though it's not as like hype as some other stuff. Besides that, what else did I watch? Tactop Destiny episode 3, which I won't say any more than that. The backstory is more or less complete, where now we know how they got to the point they were in episode 1, and it's good. It's just really good. It's great to look at. Solid voice acting. You know, now that I understand like the main character's motivations a bit more, like it makes his relationship with Destiny a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be, because in episode 1 they're kind of just very annoyed with each other. So I thought this was one of those like odd couple type relationships where like maybe he didn't really want to be partnered with this person and that's why they don't get along. No, actually he was like borderline autistic music guy with like no social skills, who finally was like coming out of his shell with a girl who could really see who he really was, and then she's fucking blown apart mostly and reborn as this like killing doll that has no memory of her past life, basically a whole new person.
So
like
she's definitely different than the rest of them.
Oh yeah, she's way different. There's all kinds of, I don't know if you've seen the episode, but like there's the process.
Oh yeah,
that,
the third episode. Yeah, I've seen the third episode.
Yeah. So she's very different. So I like that they use those 2 episodes to just catch us up to episode 1, because it felt like there might have been like a much bigger backstory, but no, they were at the beginning of their journey right there, and like his attitude towards Destiny is like that's so exasperated in that first episode is really more like I'm getting to know this person for the first time and they are not listening to me and they're gonna get me killed. Like that makes a lot more sense. So I enjoyed that, and there was some really, really good animation also in this episode with the 2 new, the conductor and the other girl. I thought they're dynamic because she's much more lively. The 2 new, the conductor and the other girl. I thought their characters are going to be like, or I thought that just their characters were going to be like robots, but it's like no, that's
it's
specific.
just Destiny.
Yeah, because I don't know if I could deal with a series where like half of the cast were like unfeeling, emotionless killing
but
machines.
But then it also is fucked up that like they lose their complete like memory and life from beforehand.
Yes, that
just
is utterly fucked.
Yeah, just because they have the potential to become the thing. So I would just like to appreciate the show for having a gay male that isn't like hypersexualized the entire time.
I was hoping that you would watch, and I want to know what your opinion was on that character.
He had one line that was flirtatious, and that was it.
Yep.
That was
I'm
it.
fine with that. That's fine.
Yeah, that was A-okay. But the fact that he appeared on screen and I was like, gay, he's fam, got it.
You coded him immediately.
Yeah, I was like, he's family, got it. But that it wasn't like immediate, like, oh, he's cute. Oh, you're cute. What are you doing?
Yeah, it wasn't any of that shit.
Yeah,
no.
It was just like, okay, no, he's like, we in this shit too. And also, he is most likely going to be a prominent supporting character because he's already questioning what's going on with the maestro and shit like that. And he's like, oh, 10 years ago and da-da-da-da-da and this shit. And like, this isn't matching up. And I'm like, oh, so it's not just about you showing up to make Takt feel awkward. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mappa and Madhouse.
I think his name was Lenny.
Did you hear this, Shokugeki no Soma?
I think his name was Lenny, and I don't remember what the other one was, like Teton or Titan. Titan, yeah. So Lenny's character is actually one of my favorite supporting character archetypes in like anime. The whole like experience, like the experienced veteran who kind of puts on a very like lively. Yeah, they have like two sides of their personality where like one is really like carefree and kind of lively, and the other one is very shrewd and not necessarily calculating, but like highly intelligent. And so to have those like scenes where obviously like there's stuff Lenny doesn't know and hasn't necessarily communicated to Tact and Anna, but when he goes off screen to go do whatever it is that he's gonna do, I know that when he shows back up, it'll be an opportunity to move part of like the mysteries of the plot forward, whereas like the main cast can kind of have their road trip and have a good time. So aside from like his coding, I just think he's a really it's one of my favorite like character archetypes. Period. Like because it's always like a lot of fun when they're on screen, but then you know they can handle business, which we saw in that episode. Like,
oh yeah, Homegirl was just like easily dispatching them niggas with that little shotgun. I was like,
yeah, that was sick. I love how was she like it was, I don't know if she was counting it out, but like that whole the scene in the forest where she's like going ham. I was like, that's great. And then like Destiny comes in on the last one and is like just winds up blowing up the house.
Yeah,
so
like,
I was like,
which it shows the power like output difference. How Titan was able to just like easily dispatch them, and like Destiny is just like overdoing it like completely. Which Lenny did say she has like problems controlling that shit, and we still don't know exactly like what is happening to Tact. Like when she starts like popping up like that.
Yeah,
are they draining life energy?
Well, yeah, but like Lenny looked like he kind of knew what that was, but didn't fully explain what was happening there. So again, like happy to see that because there's some intrigue, but it's not the kind of intrigue where it's like if the story can't move along until we find out. Like that'll just be some other shit. So I thought the episode was like very good at teaching us who these characters are, and now we can kind of fast forward to the present and go back and have some fun on the road trip or whatever's gonna happen. Maybe it's gonna get dark as fuck. I don't know. Also, I don't know if Schindler and Sagan, the two conductors, I don't know if they caused that attack because
Yeah, well, I mentioned it during that episode that they were there right before it happened.
Yes, and there's a line where he's talking to the conductor who's in the city. He's like, make sure that this is a peaceful event. And then then the attack happens. Also, you saw the little short thing where there was like a tuning fork that was purple in the ground that Lenny destroys.
Yeah.
Which then kind of ends the attack. What the fuck was that?
Oh, you know what? That didn't even fucking register to me. I saw that and I was like, oh, a tuning fork. And then I was like, oh, okay. It didn't even register to me to think that was something. Ooh.
Well, it was like the last thing that happened, and then the fight ended.
Oh my god! Actually, you know what? I was very confused at the beginning of the episode. I'm not gonna lie, because I had forgotten that like last week ended in the beginning of the fight. With the beginning
right.
Of the fight.
Yes, that's
so
right.
So when we hopped into it this week, I was like, oh wow, what's going on? Like, whoa, shit! I was like, I enjoyed it, but I was like, holy shit! Which it goes back to my old point or my current stance is that like these niggas know who is watching and what to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, that was fun, and I also watched Love Alternative because I'm just like there's not a lot of like hard mecha stuff other than Kyokai Senki, which I also watched, but I don't have as many like thoughts about because it was a lot of like people getting to know each other kind of episode. Yeah. But in Love Alternative, I kind of wanted to make this point when we were talking about 86 is that I don't play visual novels, and this one, if you watch the first episode, is very action heavy, and I actually like the mecha designs in the series and the sort of bleak, a post-apocalyptic kind of setting. The aliens are all just horrible body horror nightmares, and lots of characters die. Because I never watched it, never read it, and didn't really know very much about the series, I didn't realize that like, oh, it's another one of those like visual novels where most of the primary cast, if not all of them, are like harem bait, but then they also all die in horrible ways, depending on which of the sort of routes you take through the story. So in watching this, the third episode was the first episode where I felt like I was watching a visual novel, because the guy literally mentions, like, oh, on this route, this thing happens, because alternative is supposed to kind of be the good ending of the, or one of the better endings that you can get to, kind of like how you have like Fate, and then you have like Stay Night, then you have like Heaven's Feel, and I think there's like obviously there's like the mainline story, but like some of the side stories have air quotes like better or worse endings. So this I think is like so I think alternative is kind of like having done the whole story once before, doing it again, but choosing the right options, or knowing ahead of time like what things were going to happen. So there's a really interesting like way that the characters play off each other, that as someone who doesn't read visual novels, I was like, oh, is this what that experience is like when you've gone through the story once and you kind of know what to avoid? And they do find interesting ways to have his prior knowledge not necessarily work out the way you would expect in a series where, you know, being omniscient about the future would you would think would give a lot of advantages, and that in fact it kind of fucks up. And they talk a lot about like time travel theories, and you know, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it was more reasonable than I would have expected. But I am almost over the like new girl of the week popping up, and it's like, oh, this is waifu number 6, and I'm like, I don't care about any of this shit. The only saving grace is that they can all die horrible deaths. I mean, like I guess if you were a reader, you would know who these characters were, but I guess he made some choice to try to like stop a major war from breaking out, and as a result, it sent off a unit of people that had a character among that unit who he would have known from his prior past but didn't realize. And so they show these like more hot girls getting into mecha and going out to fight, but then in like a little side screen they died as a result of that, and he doesn't know it yet, which I thought was like hilarious.
Shit.
Yeah, so it's I actually like it. I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I like it enough to go back and watch the older series, because I think there were 2 seasons worth of it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there were like 2 seasons, at least 1 season prior to this, from like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, because I've heard of it before as being a brutal ass show to watch. But yeah, I'll probably continue to watch it, at least until like they haven't even gotten their fucking mecha yet. I've seen everyone else fight except for them, so I want to get that out of my system. And then Kyokai Seki was just again setting up what the supporting cast is going to be. But there was some good combat animation, and we kind of got an antagonist mecha, which I'm down for. So that's what it was.
Yep. Same thoughts.
Cool. So that's it. That's basically everything of note that I watched this week.
Yeah, I mean, did I watch anything? I mean, nothing else really stood out like Osama. So, yeah, Osama.
Cool.
So I guess we can go. Oh, well, I guess I'll save this until after the news. Well, actually, no. Let me just go ahead and get through this right now. So Finna ended. I'm going to try to do as little spoilers as possible, because I know a lot of people really didn't get into it, but they are looking at it and want to get into it. And I do know some people like hopped on my stream and they said that they were gonna like watch all of it once it finished, so like they just started. So I just want to say, Finna, when I think of a series or like a newer series, I think, would I recommend this to someone? And would I recommend this to a beginner person, someone who has been watching anime for a minute, or someone who is just like deep in the dirt like I am? And I would say I would recommend this to people. I would not recommend this to a first-time anime watcher. I would recommend this to someone who literally just wants something to watch and just like, I just need to, I just want a new show to watch. Something that if they're not like super judgy about like the quality of it, then yeah, I would recommend Finna. If they're looking for something that has like a finite ending with like no plot holes and like a decent character development, this is not their show. This is not their show. I will say, and you said it previously, that like it has the American pacing.
Yeah,
it does. It has the American pacing, but the ending of it is also extremely Adult Swim. And it's so like it gave me showing up on a Saturday night at like 12:30 and turning the Cartoon Network and like watching like the third to last episode of like Lelouch out of nowhere. And basically and like not knowing what the
That's
fuck
pretty
was going
heavy.
on.
That's
Like,
pretty heavy.
Yeah, like not knowing anything that's going on, but still basically being like, oh, but I love this show. I'm gonna watch this shit. So like, I feel like maybe Finna was like drafted to have that appeal, because with the final episode, even if you watch the entire fucking season, there were still so many plot holes that I was like, wait, no, you can't. Oh no, what about the mama? And then wait, okay, so who was actually the daddy? And then wait.
So is it done? Did it end on a cliffhanger, or did it actually have a definitive ending?
The ending was something. The Eden storyline is over.
Okay, so there's more.
But no, there isn't.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I can't tell you because it literally would spoil
Okay,
one of the
fine,
biggest
fine.
twists about like what happened. So like yeah, well I will say the Eden storyline is over, but they have not hinted at a new storyline. But then I went to like Crunchyroll's Twitter and shit like that, and people are begging for a season 2, and I'm just gonna let y'all know we don't need that shit if it's gonna be more of this. And I just want to say that the biggest plot hole, and this is what pissed me off, and I'm about to say this part. So if
Do your thing.
If you haven't gotten to the part where they talk about Shitan's brother, then skip ahead a bit and when we get to the new segment. But I just want to let y'all know that this is one of the most frustrating things that a show can do. You do not spend an entire episode building up someone as an antagonist, and then you never give them screen time. Ever.
Oh.
They spent an entire episode and then following episodes being worried about Shitan's brother showing up, and that Yukimaru always loses to Shitan's brother, and that Shitan's brother literally had like 3 lines in the show.
What?
Like 3 lines. Yeah, he had 3 lines, and
What?
they were all flashback lines.
What?
They were all flashback lines. So I'm like, so you spent this entire episode where the group split up because some people, the group split up, or they had their differences, because Yukimaru was like, I'm gonna go save Finna, and Shitan was the one who was like conspiring with the brother and the old nigga on the island, who basically didn't like Finna from the beginning. They just wanted to use her as a means to an end for a bigger thing that they got going on with the British government. So I'm like, early on in the series, when all that stuff was brought up, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually intriguing, and these are plot lines that will eventually be explored. And they were not. So what you should have done is left it out of the fucking story, because we were enjoying it already. But the only thing that I kept thinking at the back of my head during the entirety of the last 3 to 4 episodes was, when does the brother come in? Because he's an antagonist. You have set him up to be a primary antagonist, and he has not shown up. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And then yeah.
Well, that fucking sucks.
Yeah. So, like, and that was just one thing. There were a few other plot holes that I wasn't as mad about, because and some people said that, like, the ending felt rushed. And also, I was expecting, like, a super, like, anime weeb, but, like, fuck you, this is anime, anything is possible moment at the very end. And we didn't get that. If anything, I would say the ending wasn't even bittersweet. It was kind of just bitter. So, I will give the show kudos for that. For the show basically going along the path of, everything.
Hi,
always
Kia.
like
How are
sunshine.
you?
Like,
Sorry, I
sometimes
was
this
muted
shit
there.
Like, this shit happens
for a
and
bit.
you just have to move on.
How are you
and live
doing?
life.
How's your day, evening, afternoon,
So,
morning, wherever
okay.
you may be?
I will appreciate that, but yeah, I feel like everything I've said probably discouraged you completely. from
No,
watching
so
the
I
rest
watched.
of it.
So here's the thing. I watched the first 6 episodes.
Oh, so you've
like-
seen that episode?
Yeah, I've seen some. Well, I shouldn't say all of it. I watched the beginning of episodes.
Well, I think you've gotten to the episode where Shitan does all the bullshit over his brother, and like they're all afraid of the brother because he's gonna kill them if they like go against the island. Like, yeah. That I feel like
Yeah.
that's within the first. 6
But
episodes, yeah.
what I want to say is the thing I liked about the series, because I kind of marathoned most of it, and obviously didn't finish, but that was I just ran out of time. But the thing I liked about it was that it was this take on that Seven Samurai, movie concept, but then instead of attaching them to a village, they got attached to a girl who is doing a journey. So it's like, cool. This is it's an old story construction. It's a classic, but it's now married to a different type of a story, so that you don't necessarily know where all the twists and turns are. Because like the Seven Samurai as like a archetype of storytelling is all about like getting you like
I am
letting you meet
doing
all these
dailies and
irredeemable,
things for Genshin
sort of
while editing this
anti-heroes.
podcast.
Then
Well,
attaching
doing the
them to a
editing that
very
needs to be done.
moral
There doesn't need to be
crusade,
much done this
and then
week,
you
but I
kill
still have to
them
listen
off
to the
one by
entire
one,
thing
but as you kill them
just
off,
to make sure.
in each of those scenes you learn something about their
And then after I
redemption
finish,
and
once the
redemption of their
podcast is done,
character.
then I'm gonna
So,
hop on
so
some
you get to the finale
Yakuza's
and
Like a Dragon.
right,
Yeah.
Because I've been
so,
enjoying
like,
the shit out of
that's
that
just the
lately.
structure of those types of stories. But then to take that setup and sort of attach it to a more freewheeling, because in Seven Samurai they go to a village and then the village is being harassed by marauders who want their food. They're all poor, so it's all this stuff that is
Oh,
to get
homeboy
you,
died.
the
I didn't even notice
viewer,
that.
emotionally attached to like this impossible crusade. But it takes place in one place, so that it's all very stationary and you learn a lot. But this is like more of like a not quite a road trip, but more of like a dramatic journey. And so like that's why I like the show. I liked it because it moved literally. Like, it subverted a couple ideas and used some old ones pretty well, and it looked good, and the music was good. So that was my only real attachment to it. It wasn't like, I was happy with some of the earlier plot holes in the storytelling. I kind of hoped that either it was going to be longer, in which case that you have time to like fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
or
it needed
that,
to be longer. Yeah.
Yeah, or if it wasn't going to be
Yes,
long,
the
that,
title
like,
has been
they wouldn't
updated.
Dwell
Oh,
on any
shit.
of those plot holes as being made like very. They would imply that they would be very important to the plot, right? Because there's like 45-minute OVAs that are really good. They don't ever really address the plot holes, but they get you to the thing that you wanted to see really quickly, and then they get out of there, right? You know what I mean? They don't get bogged down. So what you're reporting is like the worst of all worlds, where they set up a bunch of shit that they trick you into thinking is very important, and then they run out of time, or they don't care, one or the other, where you find out that you shouldn't even have bothered. You should have just like either you, the viewer, shouldn't have invested.
It's an anime podcast.
producers and writers
It's
should just
basically
never put
me
that
and my
in there.
friend
It's just like,
James.
I hate having
We
my guys.
talk
I'll say
about
that.
3
But I don't have
weekly
much
shows that
more
are
to
currently
watch
airing,
so
a general topic,
Well, yeah,
and then
so,
just
like,
like
and
anime
I
news,
will
like
agree
things.
with you as far as like the music, the production value, like all that stuff is there. But when it comes to like,
I'm
the
getting
plot itself, and you
talent
guys,
stuff for Kokomi right
literally,
now,
what's like cock teasing us basically.
and then I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
thing
back
that-
and do
I
the
was like, it
farm
kinda sucks when we get to
for
the
dearest
conclusion
Ayaka so I can get her a
of
better
proper
feather,
conclusion
because she
on
deserves a
all
better fucking
storylines
feather.
that you set up. It's kind of like maybe they even gave us those storylines in case like something went awry, and they were like, okay, we got to change the ending. So let's make this nigga.
I probably should go ahead and do
let's
Labyrinth
set it up
Warriors.
So like this guy can be the end game antagonist all along, or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
it was giving me that kind of vibes by the end. I was just like, it's not that I didn't like it. It was just that I was a little bit frustrated with what we got, and also it's like very fresh on my mind. Like it's less than 24 hours. The episode.
My favorite of this season is Aristocrat
like,
Assassin.
Further down the line, but also
I really like
one thing, I
Osama
was like,
Ranking also.
what are y'all stand? Actually, you know what? No. As I say that, it actually makes more sense to me because I kept wondering. I was so confused when I saw all those people on like Crunchyroll's like Twitter and Instagram like singing the praises of the show, and I kept wondering. I was like, what is it? Like, what are your standards? Like, and then I also remembered that like schools really don't teach niggas shit no more.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, okay, well that's probably why. Like you're like, I'm not saying that it's like shitty and no one should ever like it. I'm not like like a Demon Slayer or like My Hero hater or some shit like that. But it's also just like, have you read books? Like, have you like experienced a proper like structured storyline that has like a set, like as we were talking about earlier, like and in which wow, like the tangents just keep fucking coming, where Finna had a predetermined ending, Eden. So we had that the entire time, which is why the journey was good until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's the frustrating
Which
thing.
characters have you been farming for?
So, like if we all
Where the fuck did that apple come from last second?
In One Piece, all these fucking years going along with everything One Piece, all kind of shit like that, and we get to the end, and they're like, Luffy, One Piece was inside of you all along. And then I'd be like, I hate everyone. Don't talk to me. No one talk to me. Going along with everything One Piece, all kind of shit like that, and we get to the end, and they're like, Luffy, One Piece was inside of you all along. And then I'd be like, I hate everyone. Don't talk to me. No one talk to me.
Oh my god, if that was the actual end of One Piece, I think several cities in Japan at least
sadly having the
would
taste of
burn
the
to the
self-taught
ground.
skill.
Because it would start
I mean, yeah, when it comes to anime, but also it's kind of just like
If you thought the
that
Attack
story-
on Titan backlash would be was terrible,
Like,
imagine the One Piece
I don't
backlash
know,
from
like, what are
people
your
who,
standards?
Like, were like up to
I'm not
date
saying it
on
was
1,000
ass,
chapter plus.
but it also wasn't
Like,
deserving of
they
that
watched
much praise.
every episode, every filler episode. They swore up and down to all their friends, no. If you didn't like the beginning, just like wait till they get to
and you know what? I'm seeing
Marineford.
some people starting it lately, and I'm like, are you crazy? Like, you really gonna start the episodes? Read the manga, and then start watching the episodes. Or it's that easy. Like, or if anything, read the manga up to the Wano arc and then start watching from.
But you get my point. Like, if they did that, that would be such a betrayal of so many, like, decades of people's lives invested in this fucking story.
Full on content creators making their lives from that IP. If they did that, it would ruin. It would.
That would be unbelievable.
It would be.
Like, I got the, like, look, I don't want to be like the I told you so person, but like my feeling always with Attack on Titan back in the day was that the author had one good idea and then kind of lost the thread. So when things went off the rails for real,
I think I heard that, like, didn't he have all of it to when
up till they
reached the
up
ocean?
up till they opened the Grisha's cabin. Which was like right before the part where they get to the ocean.
Okay, so
but
yeah, I heard that all of that was like predetermined. Like, he had that shit like down packed solid.
Yep. He was actually going to end the series when they got to the ocean. Like, that was the original thought.
If Oda does that, I will literally scream.
So like
I will literally
of, like,
cause
popularity
chaos.
and shit.
Yes.
The contents of the cabin probably changed.
Yes, that's literally what happened. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I say all that to mean that, like, I knew that the ending would be a train wreck because that destination was not the original idea. And I'm not saying this as an arrogant person, because I feel for creatives and writers. Like, it is fucking hard.
Oh, you're working on Child. How do you like his play style?
Like, you don't,
because now when I do the test runs, I usually am just like, this is the third test run I've done for him.
A rant, but like, one of the golden rules about being a creative person I've been taught, and I think it's a really important one, is that for every horrible idea that you have, like, you probably had to go through 100,000 like absolutely god awful dirt worse, don't tell anybody about it. For every like okay idea, you probably have 10,000 horrible ideas, and so on and so on. So for every one good idea that you really do come up with, or even great idea that you come up with, there's so much other garbage that you had to try to create and then fail at, or have it not, have trouble completing before you get to the good shit. So when you get a good one, the idea that the next thought that you would have creatively is also going to be good is usually a false premise. You're going to have to probably start back at the beginning with a bunch of bad ideas. And something about the whole like serialized nature of storytelling is that when you don't think through every nuance and every direction you could go, and you just say, okay, come up with the next thing on the fly, the likelihood that the next thought out of your brain is going to be a good one is very low. So when things start to go off the rails, that's one of the reasons why stories that are not put together by committee, which is its own problem, but like by singular authors, can just sort of fall apart. Yeah, spiral is literally that. The next idea you have to meet your deadline may not be any good, and it may set you up for future bad ideas to get yourself out of it. So I don't know what the fate of Fena really was. I mean, like, it's a co-production between Crunchyroll and Adult Swim, and frankly, there hasn't been a single truly successful Crunchyroll production other than Tower of God. Which,
and it's not, they're not even going to continue it because it's too much of an undertaking for them, most likely.
Yeah, so like the problem here, I think, is Crunchyroll's production process. I don't know if it's the Adult Swimness of the show, because it had strong bones, or it felt like it did anyway.
It did, yeah, and that's what makes it frustrating, is that the startup or the ending didn't live up to what we got in the beginning.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good segue, though, into the actual news topic I want to talk about.
Okay, then let's segue, because we just ranting now.
Let's segue. So the topic, I think, is what we both keyed into
okay.
a week or so
Well, that
ago,
makes sense,
was
then.
the announcement that Disney would be entering into the anime streaming space.
This is horrible news, y'all. I just have to let y'all know,
And their model they appear to be adopting is somewhere in between Crunchyroll and Netflix, in the sense that they have announced that they will be funding the production of a variety of what they're calling original series, but for the most part, they are well, I'll let you be the judge. So Black Rock Shooter is getting a continuation series in Black Rock Shooter Dawnfall. Then they're also bankrolling Summertime Rendering and Tatami Time Machine Blues, both of which are new and will be produced in Japan for a Japanese audience as part of the Disney Plus streaming service. So these are not earmarked for Western distribution, though you can assume that if they release, there will probably be a localization that will come maybe 4 to 6 months after they air in Japan. So there are like a variety of reasons.
I don't know, but I don't want them to touch anything else.
But ironically, it's not necessarily because it's Disney, which is what a lot of people were reacting to. They're like, well, Disney doesn't do anime. They do Western stuff. They'll fuck it up. No, I don't think that's the reason they'll fuck it up.
Oh, but, no. I think it's, I'm worried about the legal corporate side of Disney.
Yes, 100%.
That's what I'm worried about.
So, to step back a little bit, we were just talking
about.
Damn it.
So, to step back a little bit, we were just talking about, the downfall of co-production, or at least one high-profile co-production in Fena, at least from a story point of view. I think it probably did good business for Adult Swim, and I don't know about. I'm not so sure about Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll is more, and quietly, one of the things that's happened, as a result of the merger, is that Crunchyroll has basically discontinued its originals series. I think
even though that girl, that magical girl one is like getting released now.
Yeah, but that show has been in development hell for like 4 years. It's crazy. So like, look, I don't want to step into the more hot button political side of the conversation around was it Guardian Spice or something? High Guardian Spice. Regardless of what you think the origin of the validity of the origin of that production and the people behind it and what their intentions were with the series, there's major problems that we've seen from the production model that Crunchyroll undertook. I will spare all the major details. The bottom line is that Crunchyroll thought that they could spin up a variety of basically subsidiary studios and then manage the production from the Western corporate side in order to serve the needs of the Crunchyroll service, which, remember, is primarily focused on a non-Japanese audience, because they don't, they simulcast, but they don't simulcast only in Japanese. Like, they localize a lot of the stuff that they get, like whether it's subtitled or it's dubbed. So and Crunchyroll's subscriber base is all, Western. I mean, I think in Europe they have a footprint, but it's almost America and Canada.
I think there are different services in Europe, aren't there?
That is correct. And there's also a Spanish language version that they have that is available in Mexico and South America. But the bottom line is that like that, from a corporate point of view, every one of their productions has been horrifically mishandled. From to the point where whole studios would be behind by 6 to 12 months. We're talking like before the pandemic. Like they were already just fucking up. Apparently there were also like major leadership problems with like executives who were in charge on the western end of these deals, like just having really bad
0% surprising.
Yeah, they having like just bad working relationships.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot
Japanese
about that.
talent,
The
and of course,
Sasaki.
like, quality
I'm excited for
suffered
that
on a
next
variety
season.
of
It's supposed to be
series,
coming
causing
next
them to get
season,
pushed
right?
back. And every time a series got pushed
I didn't know that
back,
the series was
it
finished, so
played
that's nice.
havoc with Crunchyroll's promotion, where a lot of the shows outside of that like 1 year stretch where they released God of High School, Tower of God, and Noblesse basically back to back from I think winter to summer. That was the only time that they were ever able to do things deliver on time, and in fact that whole block was delayed a year. So the bottom line is that like there's still a big problem with Western studios working with Japanese production companies, and even though what we hoped was the best case, that Western money would sort of help out with the tenuous nature of getting a show greenlit and the whole Japanese production committee approach, the reality of it is that they were huge money sinks for Crunchyroll. So what does this say about Disney Plus? It says that adopting the Crunchyroll model but thinking that you can do it better seems like a risky decision. And then if you look at the shows that they have announced so far, none of them strike me as having the upside of like international success as anything Crunchyroll was trying to do, whether they succeeded or not.
No one gives a fuck about Black Rock Shooter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it has its community, but like on the world stage, the main thing I think of when I think of Black Rock Shooter is just going and finding a fight compilation, and that's it. Like, I don't care about the story. I don't care about which girl is who, or which girl does what, or whatever. I care about watching the fight scene. That's it. Which, that doesn't do much for a lot of people. Some people, they want, they need their faves to stand and shit like that. And the girls barely talk.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
the other two I haven't heard of. I don't know if they're not anime originals, are they?
Not
Holy shit.
Well, in a weird way they are. So Tatami Time Machine is a sequel to Tatami Galaxy, which is which was a novel, not a light novel, but an actual novel that was written in the early 2000s and got an anime adaptation recently in 2020 that did pretty well. My understanding of it
Yeah,
is
I've heard
that
the
it's
name before. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like a sort of romance or romance subtext type of story. Slice of life, sort of, but it's more serious, and I don't know. Like I don't fully get why this. Maybe there were people who were clamoring for like that to come back, but wasn't it like an original like net animation first?
Yeah.
And then it's not this like huge juggernaut of a franchise. I mean,
It's like a light novel banger.
Right,
or
right.
Some shit like that. My big worry with this is that Disney is going to have their hands in it, and then content creators are going to suffer because they are insufferable when it comes to copyright shit. And I'm not just talking about like YouTube. I'm talking about just like, stuff in general. You know how people like to make, like fan keychains and shit like that, which, yeah, you are using like their intellectual property. But the way that these niggas go hard over anything Mickey Mouse, it's kind of just like, oh my God. So now you're going to be dipping your hand, your fingers, your whole fucking limb into this shit. And knowing them, they are going to monetize it. They're gonna, cause they did that shit with Kingdom Hearts, where you got Kingdom Hearts like keychains and keyblades and shit.
But how are they even gonna? The series they chose are like unmonetizable.
They gonna throw money at it. It don't matter. It don't matter.
Unmonetizable.
They gonna
Like
throw
these
money
are.
at it. They're going to have like full on like at the like Barnes and Nobles and shit like that. They're gonna have like a full on shelf where they're gonna be like, buy the popular streaming thing from on Disney Plus. Buy the original manga version or like the new like they are going to throw money at this shit. And then I don't know, like I just don't see Disney touching anime.
Oh, wow.
In a like positive.
Oh, I'm glad that the main story
Yeah.
is finished. That
What
means
I
we can
see
get
is-
like a
and I
solid.
hope it
Do you
is
think
this
one
way,
season
that
is enough,
I don't want
or
them
do
to,
you think
like,
they're gonna need like
have,
multiple seasons to wrap
ownership primarily
everything?
over studios. So I know they just did like Visions and shit like that, but those were collaborations. Those weren't like full on. We're buying this studio and Disney owns them, and thus we own everything that they